What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Self-Authored. And I don't normally talk about politics, but today we are because things are getting the hell out of hand lately, guys. After watching Charlottesville and everything else, I feel like the only conclusion I can draw as to how the hell is all this happening is it seems like politics is getting way too memeified. And I don't mean that. Hear me out. So the idea is that we talk about politics in memes, we argue about politics in memes, we try to point fingers and identify each other in politics through memes. And there's a lot of value to be had there, but the problem with memes is memes don't offer any solutions. A meme is almost by definition the smallest unit of an idea. And it's like a distillation of something to a grabbable point. And the reason that memes are awesome is because really you can distill an idea down to its most core interpretation, which is how it is. It's an interpretation. And the reason I say that is because a meme includes the idea and the emotional content of how that person's interpreting that idea. And in doing so, we've turned the political landscape, instead of one that we're co-creating a future together, into one that we're fighting each other over, trying to eliminate and dominate each other in. And in doing so, it's caused nothing but more separation between everybody. And hence why I believe politics in 2017 they've divulged into this battlefield where you're a pawn into the meme. Whatever meme your side is representing, you kind of have to claim allegiance to or be ousted. And I say this because as someone who finds myself in the center and constantly trying to discuss ideas with people, it almost feels like it's getting really hard to maintain that position. Of catching a lot of times where I'll have a discussion with somebody and right away they'll get fired up and they're wanting to point at you and be like, where do you stand? Where do you stand? It's no discussion. And it's claim your side. They don't want to have it. And any nuanced view is almost deemed as like you might as well be pointed out to be the enemy. And I actually got this thought coming yesterday as I was trying to discuss what happened in Charlottesville with my father. He hadn't seen any of the news yet because he'd rather not, thankfully. But some background on my father before we start pointing fingers at anything. He would identify as a conservative. And if you asked him his views and really had him lay them out, you'd find out he's fiscally conservative and pretty much liberal or libertarian on his social values. He's more of a leave me the fuck alone, I'll leave you a fuck alone, we'll all get along as long as nobody spends too much money kind of thing. That's his kind of view. But in discussing it, just barely bringing it up, and I mentioned the word, I did 2 sentences in, mentioned the word conservative or right. And he got lit up emotionally. Just like, no, well, like trying not to, basically saying like, don't go pointing fingers at them. There's because he identifies with being conservative. And instantly it became a defensive situation. And this is not just my father doing this. This is everyone on the news doing this. Everyone on Twitter, the garbage dumpster fire that it is, arguing about it. It's the moment it becomes political language or any words that can be used in political language, everyone throws up their defenses. There's no ability to have a conversation. And instantly it was going to like feeling as if I have to declare my side before we can declare a conversation. And then even then, once the side is declared, it is felt to be divulged into a fighting over who's going to be dominant and win, not over can we discuss this out. And hence why I feel like it's very difficult to even have a conversation nowadays on what this is. Because it's no longer a co-creating for, hey, I would like things to be better. What's going on here? Let's just figure this out. And so in all that, I essentially was like, I'm not going to have this conversation. And I can feel him still doing the thing where it's like, what's wrong? You don't want to talk about it? Do you feeling hurt, upset? And I'm like, no, it's not going to go anywhere. And at the end, by a couple hours later, he came back and approached me and was very calm and emotionally chill and was like, yeah, I'm not for anything that's going on over there. I just feel like anytime a political conversation comes up, it's defending myself from being thrown morally into a corner as a bad guy. And I don't feel like I'm a bad guy. I do good work. I help people. I do all this stuff. Why am I aimed as a bad guy? And we were talking about that. And obviously he's my father. We have a bit of a commitment to work together in the long term. And the issue is I noticed we don't see that with other people, and this commitment to, yeah, I have to be with you. I have to work with you on some level. And so therefore we're going to calm down, come back together, regroup and go, all right, I still want good for you and you want good for me. Let's discuss it and what's going on. We had a really valuable discussion. It was actually open to discussion at that point. And that was his thing, was it's feeling constantly attacked. And so therefore you always have to preemptively defend and almost put its best defense as an offense, right? And everyone's going there. And so me and him were really thinking about this. And it best I can see is I was reminded of, with all this talk about freedom of speech, there's a quote by Kierkegaard. Now, Kierkegaard was a famous philosopher back in the day. And he basically, I'm not going to get into where he was. If you want him, research him. But basically, he had a quote where he says, people demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought, which they seldom use. And it basically, that's how it feels in politics. It's this idea that Carl Jung emulated something similar to that. And he was a famous psychologist. And he declared the idea that people don't have ideas, ideas have people. And this same idea is mirrored in Daniel Dennett with his dangerous meme, where he talks about ideas spread like viruses, and the fact that human beings are one of the few creatures that'll defend a transcendent idea over their own biological kin. And you can see this with honor killings and other stuff, where we'll actually attack people who don't share ideas, even if they're kin. And it's just, I keep getting this feeling like it's not fully thought out, the ideas that we're embodying. And the reason I say that is, put some history on it. For example, the scientific revolution is only 400 years old. And the reason I bring that out of left field is that it brings about this empirical side of thinking, this idea that let's get an idea, and instead of just declaring it what we're going to do and we'll act it out over a couple hundred years and see how it works out, we're going to test it out, or test out nature and the world and other ideas in more or less a safe and secure environment, like a lab, using mathematics, thought, or discussion, and really let our ideas battle it out in this other realm where we don't have to pay any resources or physical costs, and therefore to ourselves or our society, and therefore can really let it figure itself out and find out what is going to work. But we've only been doing this for like 400 years, because what we did before that is you'd embody an idea. And the way I can best describe this is, think about the movie 300, where the Greeks would battle the Persians. The Greeks pretty much are the embodiment of the idea of democracy, kind of a liberal view of living. And then the Persians are more of this totalitarian regime where there's a guy that's an emperor and he runs the show. And if you don't align with him, you're out. And they're going to kill you. And so what happens is they end up battling it out. And instead of ideas being fought in a scientific way, trying to figure out what's going on, what works best logically and through discussion, they get fought out between people. And the best ideas win on the battlefield instead of in the lab or on paper or in discussion or in debate. And so in doing so, it's expensive. People die, resources are used up, and it takes a lot of time. Think about it, ever since the scientific revolution, ideas have exploded. We've advanced faster than ever. They always say things are advancing exponentially. Before that, we've been battling each other for 6,000 years or more, and it takes forever to get things done. And so I say all of that to say it's time more than ever to really be clear about your ideas. And my little test to see if it's really an idea of mine, or am I essentially possessed by an idea, is, have I fully thought out this idea in relation to another idea? Because generally people have an idea and they'll compare it to the ideal. For example, healthcare is an easy one because it's in discussion and there's a billion different ways people want to solve it. The ideal is everyone has good healthcare. And then somebody will argue, well, universal healthcare for everybody. And then that's broken down to free market on alternatives, kind of Obamacare kind of thing, or like a Healthy Californians, Medi-Cal for all kind of thing. And instead of really comparing your idea to, okay, well, should it be completely free market? And what are the merits of that compared to a Medi-Cal for all plan, more like a European, more socialist country kind of plan? We don't do that. We end up comparing it only to the ideal that everyone has healthcare. And we go, this would solve that. You're an asshole for not believing in me and what I want to do with this idea. And generally that's always chosen because it's self-serving for you, obviously. It's not taken into the whole. It's not like, it would be like me going to my dad and be like, this helps me, fuck you. No, that's an asshole thing to do. And I'm not going to do that to my father because he's my father. And really, it's this like egalitarian way of extending your solutions past yourself. And so does your idea support not only just you, but does it support others? And have you compared it to another idea aiming to solve the problem? And comparing means, have you actually been able to argue the other side and realize why it would even be optional, and also why it may be false in comparison to yours? What's the stronger idea? So you're not arguing your idea against some straw version of that other idea. It's you have to articulate it for yourself such that you've made the idea no longer somebody else's words, but made them your own words, and then decided to choose that idea. And it's that deciding to choose the idea that's the key point. Because if you don't decide to choose it, you're essentially not practicing your freedom of thought, and then you're just demanding freedom of speech for it. And so that's why I think what we're seeing here in Charlottesville right now, it's especially, if you notice in all these riots, protests, it's all young people about my age, 20s to late 20s, well, 20s to like early 30s. And I'm thinking, why is that? And the only best I can figure out is my generation grew up with the hopes of you could be anything you want to be and you're the future and the heroes. And then we all got to graduate high school, and about that time everyone telling us you fucking suck as millennials and you're useless. And so it's known, everyone who's young wants to go out and be a hero story. We grew up on Disney movies, and every movie with Marvel and DC of these courageous individuals who went out, beat evil over the head, and everyone cheered them on for it, and it redeemed them of whatever fucking ills they had before that. And so it's like we're a whole entire generation looking to redeem ourselves from the name we've kind of unduly been given. So as humans, I feel like our strength is our ability to retool the world around us and our environment. And in reflection of what's happening right now, it's shown that our weakness is our inability, I should say, to retool our mind and our beliefs. And so in doing so, instead of creating allies with those around us to create a better future, they actually become obstacles. Because if someone's in your environment and they don't match your beliefs and they don't fit with where you want to go in the future, instead of trying to come together and retool your minds together for what may work and move forward, that other person has become an obstacle. And obstacles need to be eliminated or moved. And so we treat people like that. And so hence why I go back to this idea of these hero archetypes that are outdated, of the idea of a glorious, honorable person that charges courageously out into the battle and defeats evil, kills it literally. And so I don't think that's going to serve us, because that's what we're doing to each other. And it reminds me of a quote from Huxley in Evolution and Ethics, and I'll include that as well as Daniel Dennett's link in the descriptions below. But he had a quote that goes, "The courage of the warlike stock may be as hardly tried as before, perhaps more hardly. But the enemy is self. The hero has become a monk. The man of action is replaced by the quietist, whose highest aspiration is to be the passive instrument of divine reason." And I feel this is so fitting. The enemy is no longer the other person in front of us. It's become ourselves with the way we think and the way we hold on to our beliefs. So I want to leave you all with this call to action. Basically, what I think we should do is, I feel like without the willingness to change our minds and the willingness for conversation with one another, the only option we leave ourselves is a defensive one that inevitably leads to violence. It may be harder to enroll your enemy into becoming an ally, but it's much more expensive and costly for each of us to battle it out otherwise. In the end, we just end up killing ourselves instead of our ideas. And I think we'd be much better served, because we're lacking in resources, we're lacking in time, and I don't think we can survive battling it out as like a civil war amongst each other. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of what I got going on, hit the subscribe button. Links for everything I talked about is included below. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Comment below. How are you feeling about everything going on? How are you feeling about anything I might have said? Join the conversation, and I'll see you guys next week.